moving on, item number 4, item D. We have Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, Secretary Joseph P. Diover. Secretary, we appreciate your presence this morning. The committee had actually requested testimony from several agencies that have been included in the reports provided by OGMSC as far as the federal grants, receiving several federal grants here in the CNMI. And with that, and just for consistency purposes, joining me in this special panel is to my left is Senator Denise Sablan, and to my right is Senator Cruz. We do want to apologize for the absence of Senator Vico Cruz, as he has a important schedule or important commitment outside of this. So with that, I recognize you, sir. State your name for the record.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. President, and Chairman Cruz, Chairman Sablan, and thank you for providing this opportunity to discuss the Office of Grants Management in my capacity as Secretary of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs. I want to qualify that any and all of my statements are that I do not speak for other agencies or departments, and that this only relates to this relationship with between DCCA and OGM. First, before discussing it, let me just put forth that we have 9 different divisions or programs within the DCCA, of which not all of them receive federal grants. We have the Child Care Development Fund, the Division of Youth Services, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, the Office on Aging, and the Nutritional Assistance Program, or NAP, who do receive federal funds from their respective grantor agencies. As you all know, a percentage of these grants go to OGM, of which I believe 20% of that can be used for sub-grants. Most of the programs that I mentioned have direct relationships with their grantor agencies, who inform them of grant opportunities and who they report to from reporting and compliance responsibility. So most of these programs already know what they're going to be getting. They apply for it annually. Even with this new ARPA funding that we were informed of by the administration, they already were given a heads up directly from their grantor agency. Let me talk about some of their experiences with OGM. And mind you, as you know well, I was recently appointed just in December of this year. However, OGM has had experiences and discussions and meetings with these agencies even before I came in as secretary. When OGM was first established, they did go out and meet with various programs, including DCCA programs, to inform them of the existence of this program, to informed them of what services they could provide. And those services include looking for new grant opportunities and informing these agencies so that they can, apply, seek out and apply for those. And they would also assist with training, and they were supposed to assist with things like compliance. I'm aware that they did meet with CCDF early on when they were first established, and they offered, how can we help? That was the first and only time Mr. Cabrera ever visited our CCDA office. And at that time, there was a need to develop an emergency preparedness and response plan, or EDRP. One of the deficiencies that was noted was that in the event of a disaster, how would the providers be able to transport children in mass in the event of a disaster? So that was discussed. CCDF did put in a request. To date, that request was never entertained. That's just one. There were grant writing workshops that our programs have availed of. And I think that's it. But for the most part, they did receive a notice from OGM that there will be this grant opportunity. By the time they got that notice, the CCDF was already aware of that grant opportunity through their Region 9 grantor office. So they knew about it. By the time OGM's notice came in, they were already aware. They had already worked with the grantor and were able to secure not just that, but numerous other grants, including CCDBG Research and Evaluation, and several others. But as I said, support for those grant opportunities from OGM never materialized. This was really largely due to, the staff of our CCDF program that, aggressively sought out and were able to secure this grant. I'm pleased to report, Mr. President and members, that CCDF over the years has grew the funding for childcare and childcare providers from less than $1 million to an annual grant of over $3 million to date. And this does not include the recent ARPA appropriation that gave the CNMI over $36 million, if I'm not mistaken, for childcare. Again, this was not because of OGM. This was because our program were able to effectively manage those grants. For DYS, before I came in, this was during Mr. Hunter's time, and if you recall, pre-pandemic, we had revenue problems. Our funding level, local funding, went down. So at that time, DYS, an average of 140,000 out of the DYS grants went to OGM because of the indirect costs. 140,000. And again, this was at a time when, revenues were down, budgets were cut, and so DYS was not funded locally for their foster care program. And it just so happened that at that time, the need for foster care went up. DYS had sent a letter to OGM to request funding assistance, perhaps through the sub-grant program, to cover these costs. The general fund was not able to provide 140,000. And that was supposed to assist vulnerable children and families. No response. This letter was followed up with meetings by DYS and the then Secretary, Mr. Hunter, several times. To date, no assistance was ever provided. One of our other programs, the Office on Aging, had requested, this was after Typhoon Solar and Typhoon Yutu, I believe it was 2018, they requested assistance from the OGM to harden the Office on Aging, the Aging Center. As most of you are aware, the Aging Center also serves as a typhoon shelter for Manancos. So the grant application was intended to harden the facility with typhoon shutters and a standby generator. Just last week, interestingly, the grant was approved. But when yesterday we met with the Office of the Hazard Mitigation Office, and it was that office that helped our department to get that approved, not OGM. All this time I thought it was OGM, but it was under OMB that did the follow-up, that did the grant application, and their efforts led to the approval of this grant. It was not OGM. Mr. Chairman, that is just some of the experiences, I would say, with OGM. When we do the math, I don't even know how much of indirect costs is being withheld where that could go towards needy families, towards vulnerable children, to provide other services, whether young, old, or families. But I am still trying to understand with my limited time there, what services we've actually benefited from. And frankly, I don't see any. You know what, the other part of this is not just what has happened from a professional standpoint, but we also have some experience that is unprofessional on Mr. Cabrera's part. During a grant writing workshop at PIC, where we had representatives from several programs attending it, he took the opportunity to announce that he did this and he did that, he got this parking lot done, and I don't have a problem with him toting his own horn. That's it. But he also took the opportunity to criticize some of my programs. During that workshop, he stated publicly in front of all those people that our CCDF program was receiving a huge grant from ARPA funds, and that CCDF will not know how to spend that money, nor do we have staff that are qualified to run such a program. And that wasn't the only criticism we received. He went on to talk about a CDBG grant, CDBG-DR, a grant application that was submitted before my time to convert the Cagman Juvenile Detention Facility into a mass care facility, which would be able to hold thousands of potential homeless people after, let's say, during a severe storm like Typhoon Yutu. And I think it did serve that purpose during Yutu. We are now in the process of rehabilitating that, because right now it was designed to function as a correction facility, and we would like to convert it into a mass care facility to house homeless. And we are working directly with CDBG-DR at NMHC. And that's in the works, but he took the opportunity to, again, talk about our failures, that we were not doing that. That's not even a program he manages. And I still am unclear why the negative criticisms on another department on something that he had nothing to do with. But these kind of statements bothered me, Mr. President. It's unprofessional, it's childish, but I'm also concerned about the bigger picture, that perhaps Mr. Cabrera has issues with DCCA. Why, aside from criticisms, why the lack of assistance? Why the lack of response when we have meetings and follow up? Why it seems I don't know. I really don't. But it's disturbing. It's very disturbing because, you know, our programs provide direct services to many people, many families, from children to manangko, you know, to put food on the table, to keep lights on, to keep to protect vulnerable children. And as I said, we are able to do that work because of these federal grants, and really without any major assistance from OGM. So I question whether there's a need for them. I can't speak for all other departments, but as far as DCCA, I haven't seen any direct benefits from them. Mind you, I've only been in this position for several months, but I have asked each of them. To please let me know, give me some relation, good or bad. And unfortunately, it has not been such a good relationship. I will end with that, Mr. Chairman. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Terry Younger. At this time, I want to thank you for that revealing testimony that you provided. And may I ask if there's anything that you would like to submit to this committee to support your testimony, or if you have any, please please know that we are accepting it through our staff. But at this time, I'm recognition. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Secretary General, for sharing with us your experience of the lack of assistance and from the OGM. This is the reason why we're having this committee, special committee hearing, because to hear from various departments that are calling by the President. So that we want to make sure that everyone is treated equally and fairly. The services that OGM is supposed to be rendering to department or agency. So then, hearing your disappointment, and it's also bothering us as an elected leader to know that the OGM office is supposed to be giving the efficient and proper guidance to agencies, and also giving assistance to those agencies that are very essential, like one of them is your department, especially for the child care and the Manamko. So again, I appreciate sharing with us your experience with and your relationship with OGM. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Mr. President, if I may add one more experience, if you will, and this is not really a DCCA issue. It was actually when this SARA funds came in, the Commonwealth Emergency Rental and Assistance Program came out at $10 million. This is to provide assistance for like home or apartment rental, and also utility assistance. When that came out, I have, of course, LIHEAP, which administers federal grants for energy assistance, and also DYS has a similar program providing rental and energy assistance programs for needy families that would qualify under their respective programs. So when we were aware of that program, that time it had just been received. This is, I think, 4 months ago now, February. We offered OGM, if they would like, we can administer some of those grants, because we already, LIHEAP already has their clientele. DYS also has clientele, and they have direct, what do you call this? They meet with, most of them are their clients. So we offered, and didn't hear back. Last month, I think the administration, the Lieutenant Governor in particular, was very concerned that that money was not getting out to potential needy families. And so he called a meeting, and we were called in there as well. And by then, they had already created the SARA office and staffed it, but the money wasn't getting out. We met with their staff, and we offered to look at it, assess their process. We learned that the application process was very extensive. It was cumbersome, I think is the right word. It was intimidating, just the amount of documents, I think, because it was based on the HUD process, which is very extensive. And I think NMHC even advised against using their process because of that. But we looked at it and offered ways to simplify it, to make it less, intimidating, and even referred over 100 applicants to that office just from our list of clients that could qualify there. I don't know whatever happened, but I can just say, based on my staff's response, that there was resistance. There was resistance on I think Mr. Cabrera's part to accept some of our recommendations. They were not criticisms, they were recommendations. The broad goal here is to provide those services, to use those monies to help our people. But it didn't seem like it was gonna be, I don't know. Anyway, we offered it. We even sent clients over there, and that's that. But I guess it's kind of ironic that the very person that is telling us or criticizing us publicly that we didn't know how to manage our programs, that we didn't have qualified people to run these grants, we ended up having to help them, one of their programs, the SARA programs. And I'm not saying this to take credit, but we are one government. We try to help each other. We have some, qualified people and processes that you don't have to start again. We can help, help each other, and we did. And that doesn't seem to be the position he takes. Seems to be very adversarial. Why are you running that grant? I should be able to run that grant. You don't know how. Very childish, like, no, Mr. And I don't know if that has a play here, but I think it tells you what we're dealing with. And I think a lot of the problems here is not the office. It's the attitude. It's the person in that office. When he says, I did this, I did that, that tells you something. Even though he has a cadre of capable staff, only he takes credit for the work that they do. Again, that tells you something. But this is just my 2 cents for what it's worth. I can say I'm still open to working with him. We will see what comes of this. I hope something good comes of this, but I think, if his ego is what's getting in the way, then he should. And I think this process is the perfect humble pie for him to taste, so he can bring himself down to earth and start treating people and other agencies the way he's supposed to. Thank you.
Secretary, again, thank you for your testimony. We appreciate the information you provide. But I wanted to backtrack a little bit with regards to the reference to the meeting that you guys had with the LT. Knowing fully that your agency has been administering this program over the years. And when you saw the rather thick application process, was there a amendment to that effort as far as that's concerned? Because coming from this site, Secretary, I would think that would be the best avenue, is to use the very people, not reinvent the wheel. But if there's anything to add, feel free to add, but try to make it as simplify it because you're dealing with people in crisis. And the reason why I mentioned that is because of the potential concerns of not spending the money as quickly as possible, and while we keep going through the application process and not having it out, that means we still have people that are stressing out on sleepless nights and lining up to get their assistance. But has there been a revelation to that effect? Do you know if there's a change in the way the application was being brought forth?
I don't know, frankly. I know now we at that time when we met, there was like up to $168,000 of obligated monies already for those clients that have been approved. As I mentioned, we did suggest that they simplify their process. We diverted or what's that? We sent clients over so that they could apply for that from our list. We went even further than that, Mr. Chair. We realized that the time that I believe in August, 6 million has to be obligated or expended. This is 2 months from now. And by December, the entire amount would have to be used or lost. We suggested that just public notices is simply not enough to reach everyone. We suggested that they do direct, what do you call it, outreach, go directly to big apartment complexes and go door to door and pre-screen people. I don't know if that recommendation was ever taken. But I do not know, Mr. Chairman. I can tell you that, you know, our recommendations were kind of met with some quiet resistance, not from the staff, but from the boss.
Yeah. So you mentioned two different numbers and time frame. So you're saying 168, is that in thousands that has been obligated then?
I think that figure was what so far was currently approved.
Of the 10 million?
Of the 10 million, at that time, when we first met.
Okay.
I think, you know, like I said, we sent some clients over to them, so they got more additional clients. Chair, they were processing like 2 applications a day, 2 to 3. That is not right. We know of clients, because some of them were our clients that went over, that have applied like 2-3 months without any interview yet. This was huge, and that's why the governor and the lieutenant governor were both concerned. And so, you know, we met. It wasn't just us. Even NMHC participated in that meeting and you know, tried to help. No, I don't know where we stand. There was no request to meet or follow up or how else can we, nothing that I know of. But that was last month. I'm not clear right now. I know that the time is short.
Okay.
If these recommendations and measures were not aggressively pursued, then, you know, there was another issue, and that is whether CW residents would qualify, because we know that a large percentage of those living here would probably qualify. And when we asked, he said he had already asked the grantor, but did not receive a response. I don't know if they've clarified that. If they did, And if they did get the nod that they CWs would qualify, then a larger, percentage of those funds could be issued out. But I can't answer you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Secretary. The reason why I asked, because these are concerning issues, no? And we certainly appreciate the openness in terms of revealing the structure into which how your agency and the programs that stand to receive, annually grants have been working relationship with that. If there are pointed programs and timeframe to meet and very positive suggestions as to how to mitigate the concerns, generally it should be well received and push it out. But is there anything else that you would like to share before I ask Senator Cruz to be asked anymore? No? Okay, there's nothing more. Secretary, so just for the purpose of this testimonial, although these are very well taken, please know that maybe in the future, in the next few days or next couple of weeks, we will be communicating with you just for clarification on the matter, and we appreciate if you, we're expecting that. There being no other questions before the panel today, I have to, Senator Miniz had to excuse himself for the schedule. But thank you again for your participation and testimony this morning, Secretary Guerrero, John Guerrero, and the committee will continue on this afternoon. Based on the agenda, the administrator is going to be appearing again this afternoon. So with that, you're excused already, Ms. Quiteria. You don't need to appear this afternoon, but as far as the meeting itself is going to continue on. Okay, so with that, I would like to, the chair would like to call a recess to this Senate Special Committee meeting until 1:30 this afternoon. This meeting stands in recess.